Who is your daddy? I am your father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?
All right, let's do this. We are in episode 50 of Fathers of the Grind. Thanks for joining us. My name's Tim Nestor. I'm here with Derek Teague, his son Eli in the background. Derek, you just got back from a cruise vacation to celebrate. I know it's to celebrate 50 episodes of our show, which is awesome.
Of course.
Yeah. You and your wife wanted to celebrate the year-long run of the show so far.
She's obviously probably our biggest fan, I would say.
Easily.
Yeah. She's a big supporter. She's always I think she downloads our show before you even release it.
Right.
That's how big of a fan she is.
She just can't wait. Can't wait. All right, well, we're at episode 50, so there's nothing really special planned. We're going to talk about some of the favorite, for certain categories, our games of the year, and the community's votes for games of the year, but we don't really have anything special planned. We could have invited the special guest on, but we wanted to do these Game of the Year shows, just the two of us. But we do have some special guests planned for early 2017, assuming that we're still rolling by then. So we'll get to that. But for right now, before we dive into Game of the Year stuff, Derek, you've been out for a little while. You've been out on the high seas, taking over other ships and capturing forts, black flag style, right? And
Correct.
So now that you're back home, back to Florida, what's going on with the family? What do you guys got coming up for Christmas time? Just give us the rundown of what you guys are doing for Christmas, as this is December 17th. So what do you guys got coming up the next week?
We got basically, one more week of work and school, and then the kids are off for the next 2 weeks. Megan actually gets to be off the week of Christmas and New Year's, so that'll be pretty cool. She'll get to hang out with the kids the whole time. I'll be at work. But I do get back-to-back 3-day weekends, which is nice because we get the Mondays off after Christmas and New Year's Day.
Nice.
No major plans. I mean, just getting together with family for Christmas. Probably a lot of football as we get closer to New Year's. I know Friday the 30th, I'll be watching the Michigan-Florida State game. The 31st, I'll be rooting for Clemson and Washington. Even though I know Alabama will win, I do think Clemson will beat Ohio State. So that's pretty much what we'll be doing. A lot of football, movies. We like to... in fact, Ian was even talking to me about it. He's like, what movie we're going to buy for the 24th? Because I always buy a movie, and then we watch it as a family on Christmas Eve. So I've got to figure out if there's like a new release that we haven't all seen that I can get. But that's pretty much it. Nothing major or anything like that.
So Christmas movies, give me one or two that your family watches. Tonight, for example, our family watched Ernest Saves Christmas, one of the cheesiest, and yet for some reason, my favorite from Ernest is he's hilarious. Like the slapstick humor, even though the styles are all way out of date and the cars look ridiculous, and just kind of in general, everyone looks really like almost a 30-year-old movie would look. But his slapstick style of goofy humor and his facial expressions, dude, I was still laughing at that tonight. But what are you guys watching for Christmas movies?
Ernest. We don't watch a lot of them.
Krampus?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Our families. All five of us are big horror fans. So. But no, I don't even really think there's no like every year we watch a certain movie.
Really?
Or
Like Christmas
like
Story, Home Alone, Santa Claus, nothing.
No. I thought about buying them because I saw they were on sale for Best Buy. I was like, maybe we can watch that on Christmas Eve. But we always buy like a new release. Like we'll watch like a Marvel movie or a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie or something like fun and actiony. But it's new, and we've either only seen it once in the theaters, or we haven't seen it at all. It's usually what we do.
Yeah, man, we roll through the Christmas movies. We've already seen the Santa Claus, Elf, and now Ernest Saves Christmas. We'll probably still watch maybe Santa Claus 2 or something. We'll watch a few other ones. But yeah, we do the same thing, watching some other recently released movies on DVD as well. But my kids are still a little younger, so for them it's mostly just the PG or lighter Christmas films. But For us, for Christmas, we've got my folks coming in. They'll be here this coming weekend, so a week from yesterday, basically. They're flying in from Ohio. They'll be hanging out with us for a little while. Still planning on releasing our episode next week. Everybody who's listening, we are still planning on releasing an episode Christmas night, assuming we can schedule it sometime during the week, and I can set it to release at the right time. We should be all set to go, so shouldn't have too many struggles there. But as far as what we're planning on doing, we'll just take my folks around the city. They haven't visited Colorado before, so we'll take them around to see some stuff. We'll do, Christmas morning and, the whole shebang. So lots of presents to open. Really, really excited for my boys to all get their own either 2DS or 3DS and then Pokemon Sun and Moon. So that's going to be fun for them to all have those games to play. So
I can't talk about it because Eli's here, but I actually just bought a couple of things for him and Ian today that
Hi,
have
Eli.
to do with what we talk about every day. So, but yeah, it's going to go with what we bought on Black Friday for them. And I'm not going crazy with the games or anything like that because they already own them all, and the ones that they want I think are trash, so I don't like buying them. Is that wrong that I don't like buying them what they want because I think it's trash?
yeah, that is wrong. Yes, I will be the first
It's
one
not
to tell you.
wrong. They just
That's
have bad. Eli, you have bad taste
No.
right now.
Don't listen to him,
You have
Eli.
an adorable face, by the way. Look at that little face.
Bad taste for what?
You have bad taste in video games.
No, I want the Lego movie Lego game.
Tell everybody how big of a Final Fantasy 15 fan you are.
They suck.
Okay. You're a big Final Fantasy 15 fan. And you really liked Final Fantasy 7 when I was playing that last week before I went on the cruise.
No.
You thought it was terrible.
Yeah.
Okay. I love
Is
you.
it
Go
Eli
play
who
your
said
Lego
that you play the weirdest games when you played
don't
Last
have
Guardian,
a
right?
TV.
Wasn't yeah.
Yeah, he didn't approve of Last Guardian, and then I've been hyping Final Fantasy 15, trying to get him to play it, and he liked it the first time he played it, but now he's like, no, Dad, leave me alone. I don't want to play it. I
Now every time he fires it up, he says half baked and he drops the controller.
Yeah.
You want me to play it every day, every
So
single time.
I started playing Final Fantasy 7, so he obviously doesn't understand Final Fantasy 7 and 15. He thinks they're all the same. So he was looking for Noctis in Final Fantasy 7, and he's like, this game's really ugly, and it's just stupid like Final Fantasy 15. So he's a big fan. I
Yeah.
definitely won him over with the Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah, he will be the next special guest on the Choco Bros podcast for sure. They can't wait to have him on. He's such a big
So
fan.
Eli, what is your official review of Final Fantasy 7 and 15?
I hate Final Fantasy 7 and I loved Final Fantasy 15.
Okay, you just said Final Fantasy 15 sucked or something like 2
I
seconds.
said Final Fantasy 7.
You don't even know what you're talking about.
Nope.
Nope.
Inconsistent, just
Okay,
like
well-
his father. All right.
Yeah, just throwing out opinions.
Yeah.
Has no idea what
Yeah.
he's talking about.
Yeah.
All right, so-
well, speaking of Final Fantasy VII, you said you've been playing that, and I know you were on the cruise, and I don't know how much gaming time you had, but whether there or since you've been back, what games have you been firing up recently?
Okay, so before I went on the cruise, I did jump back in the Final Fantasy 7 because I was playing Final Fantasy 15 after I finished it because I just wanted to keep playing it. And as I was playing it, I was like, man, I'd rather just wait until they patch it. I want the 4K patch, and I don't know if they're going to give me actual native 4K or whatever, but they're supposed to improve it for the PS4 Pro. I want those visual improvements, and then I want the new Game Plus. I want everything that they're going to add, because I bought the Season Pass. So I decided that same day, I was like, well, let's just stop playing Final Fantasy 15. I'm having fun, but let's just stop. And I was still in the mood for Final Fantasy, and I was like, I really want to beat 7. I've still not beaten it. So I put in a good 4 hours that Sunday before I left on the cruise. And I had a blast. I had so much fun. In fact,
The battle system's great, isn't it? It's so good.
It is so good. And so I really wanted to keep playing it, kind of wishing I had a Vita. I did borrow my brother's, erased my profile, added his profile, and he only has really just kiddie games. So I actually didn't game at all on the cruise. I didn't even turn his Vita on. I just left it in the bag. I just hung out with the wife and a couple of friends that we went cruising with, and I watched a lot of sports. So whenever I was having downtime in the room, I was just logged on to ESPN the whole time and just watching that. But no gaming.
You into
And then
college basketball at all? Because there's been some amazing college basketball games recently. You watched any of those?
that
just
wasn't
out of curiosity?
on. The only thing I had been seeing is I saw a couple of soccer matches, and then I got to see a lot of NBA, a lot of NBA. Those were the main games
No
that were
thanks.
playing at night, so I was watching that, and that was kind of nice because I haven't sat down and watched an NBA game in a long time.
Hmm.
Well, I guess since last year's playoffs, but I didn't even watch a lot back then. Um, so I didn't game during the cruise. I did get back today. I got back this morning, and because the wife left to go to a soccer game for Emily, and them two just hung out today. It was just me, Eli, and then Ian just kind of stays to himself. He just watches TV. He's not a gamer. He's pathetic. So Eli was gaming slash watching TV, and then I jumped into Watch Dogs 2. I did play a little bit of Final Fantasy 7, but I felt like, and you and I have talked about this, I felt like I've got Dead Rising 4, Watch Dogs 2, and Final Fantasy 7 that I could play right now. Well, and The Last Guardian. That are those three, the main three are 2016 games, and then I have Final Fantasy 7, which I could go and play anytime, which is a 1997 game. So I really feel like for Game of the Year and with us doing the shows now, I really need to give Watch Dogs 2 some more time, so I focused on that today.
Nice. You did play it, and it sounds like you didn't love it, but maybe you're not far enough in to really know if it's great or
I'm
not.
probably 6 or 7 hours in, and every mission so far is pretty much the same. Hack your way in, get some intel, escape. And I'm not making that sound like, I know I'm making it sound like it's terrible, but that's pretty much any open world mission game. But it's the hacking that I'm not a huge fan of right now. I find it kind of boring. It kind of feels like almost like not as simple as Mafia 3's my gosh, stealth gameplay. It's definitely harder than that, but it's just as about as entertaining to me at this point. I'm like, okay, I'm just waiting for this guy to move over here, and then this explodes, and so I've been kind of bored with that. So I've been starting to run and gun a little bit more. It's a little harder to do the run and gun in this game because you literally die after a few shots,
Right.
which is a
Yeah,
good thing.
which is why when you use the environment correctly, when you upgrade your quadcopter and
Yeah.
your RC car enough, though, to me those missions became really varied. But that's probably because I never run and gunned, and so my approach to each mission was very different. I would always try to find a spot behind a wall I could sit down and get on my computer and then just send in my little drones to take care of business for me. And so to me it felt really varied. But if you break it down into what your objective is, yes, usually it's get into some well-guarded room via ventilation or whatever and download a thing. So yeah, usually the objective is very similar, but getting there, to me at least, felt very different. Mission
And that's fine. I will say this: the gameplay is the best part of the game. I'll say the gameplay and the world are the two best things about the game.
Yeah.
It's still the characters. The story's not bad. I actually got to a part. I'm not going to.
Did you meet the villain yet?
Where?
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
I actually had a face-to-face with him.
Yeah, I like the villain in that game.
Yeah, and so that actually made me more intrigued by the story, but I really, really, really do not like any of the protagonists.
Oh, that's too
None
bad.
of the Dead Set crew. I think they're all annoying and just, I don't know. It's just me. I don't like them. So
Well,
that
give it a little
kinda
bit of time.
weighs
See,
the
there's a
game
couple
down.
emotional scenes coming up. See if that happens to hook you on them a little more. But yeah, I could see they are a little
Hopefully
grating.
those
at times,
emotional
but-
scenes is Marcus dying and the other four getting blown up as well. If that happens,
yeah.
and then I play as like T-Bone or something for the rest of the game, I would probably be like, oh, game of the year.
Oh,
You got
man.
rid of everything I hated about this game.
Boy, you went on a cruise and came back more crotchety old man than I could ever have imagined. How about that?
Yeah, and I wanted to like this game. Everybody who listens to our show or pays attention to me posting on our group, I talked about Watch Dogs 2 because I love the first one, and while I was a little bit down on the direction of where 2 is going, Once I saw San Francisco, and then once I got into GTA 5, I was like, man, Watch Dogs 2 is going to be amazing. And now I'm playing and I'm like, no, it's okay.
So
I'm
not a
feeling
big
this
enough
at all.
improvement from 1, or is it more about GTA 5 was
it's
so good?
For me, and this is the thing, this is why I can never be a jerk reviewer. I know I get razzed on for being like a dumb idiot with my opinions, but really I'm not even that harsh. Watch Dogs 2, like I would never, like I know Jurgen and you like Watch Dogs 2. I would never tell you guys you're idiots for liking this game. Like I would never say this is a bad game and you guys have bad taste. It's not. It's just everything that I'm pointing out I don't like literally is subjective. It's not objective.
Yeah.
I cannot say that they're written terribly. I
Yeah.
can't say they're not acted good. I can't say that the gameplay's bad. I can't say that the world's ugly. That game's freaking. That's probably my favorite looking open world game. It's
Yeah,
so
it looks
gorgeous.
great. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I know you got a 4K TV. They just patched this game, so I think they up-resed it or something. You got to get a PS4 Pro. I mean, I was just staring at it. I was like, holy crap, this is gorgeous. But anyways, so it's not terrible. It's just not. It's not what I wanted. But I like
Sure.
more serious tone games. Like GTA 5. I didn't love GTA 5 in the beginning because why? I hated the characters. I thought they were all thug losers. I thought the story and plot was dumb. But I like the world and the gameplay. Same thing with Watch Dogs 2. So maybe I'll get in a rhythm and I'll just be like, you know what? Forget all that other crap. Just enjoy the open world. I still don't think the open world, as far as much as you can do, is as good as GTA 5. But I haven't really explored it.
Okay.
But I'm
okay.
really
Well, let me
just
ask you
sticking to
this:
the
do you
story right
think
now.
that the lighthearted tone, the young characters, the real millennial kind of stylistic, a little bit throwback to '80s, but it's because '80s is now a cool style again. This whole, not atmosphere, but the whole world they've built, especially with these protagonists in particular. Do you think it's in response to the absolutely downer of a protagonist that was Watch Dogs 1? And I don't think he was as bad as many people say, but I don't think Aiden was a great protagonist. Do you think Ubisoft was like, this is a great world we've created, the great game franchise we've created, but we need to shift gears here into a new tone? Do you think they're responding to the overall, wow, what a downer of a character?
Completely reactionary to the reception of Watch Dogs, the first
I think
one.
it is. Even the city
I don't
choice, San
think
Francisco
they, I
compared
don't
to a
think
dark
they created
Chicago.
Watch Dogs and then said, we already, like, first of all, let me say this. When Ubisoft creates these IPs, they already know a sequel's going to happen. I'm not saying they're cocky, but they're confident enough in their product, and they know how gamers work, and I respect them for that, because they get me every time, and I love most of their franchises. You never hear me bash Ubisoft. But they knew Watch Dogs 2 was going to come. Now, they may have been shocked by... It's not that Watch Dogs 1 reviewed bad. It really didn't. I don't have the Metacritic in front of me, but I'm sure it's probably in the low 80s, maybe high 70s. So it didn't review bad.
Yeah, I want to say it's around
But
83,
the
maybe,
actual
something like that. Yeah.
gamers, huh?
I think it's around the 83 range, if I
Well, I was
remember
gonna say,
right.
forget the reviews, but most of the gamers came out and were like, "I don't like this protagonist."
Yeah.
And there was a lot of them. I won't say they're the majority, but there's a strong minority group that came out and was like, "I don't like the game. I don't like the protagonist. I don't like the story. I don't like the tone." And so they heard that, and I think it's reactionary. I think they went, "Okay, we now got to go to San Fran or somewhere in California. That's close to what GTA does most of the time. We now need to make it more colorful because Chicago was definitely more bland. We now need characters, not just one character, but a group of protagonists that are more lighthearted, goofy, younger, and a little bit crazier than this serious toned guy out for revenge." And I'm okay with that because that works for a lot of gamers. For me, it's not what I like personally. I liked Aiden. I didn't love him. I thought some of the stuff he would say or how he'd act was so dumb, and he was just a little too cold for my taste. But I liked the story. I liked him. I liked Chicago. I like the gameplay.
The struggle was though that he didn't. Do you feel like he
here.
fit in with the city? I mean, he's walking around the city with his collar popped. He's got this trench coat, and he's looking all fishy, holding his phone, aiming it at people. Like the way that they designed him as a character in that world seemed to me like he stuck out like a sore thumb. And so now with Retro and his crew, I feel like they fit in really well with that city, for better or worse.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I'm serious. I was actually going to say this on the show and I forgot. But I'm sitting here playing this game and I'm like, DedSec is supposed to be this group that people know who DedSec is, but they don't know who's in it. So nobody knows who Marcus is and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, here I am running around with clothes that say DedSec all over it. I have a jacket
that's
says
true.
DedSec.
That's
I have a
true.
shirt that has DedSec. I have a hat that says DedSec.
Well, that's
I
your
have
choice.
jeans that say
You
DedSec.
chose
I'm
to
like,
wear
this
that.
Is so
You can change your wardrobe.
Most of their clothing says DedSec all over it. Even the uncontrollable characters.
But I think
hey guys, by the way, we're DedSec.
It is silly, especially when he's sitting there on his laptop controlling a quadcopter with a shirt that says DedSec. That would be a red flag for most people, but I do believe that the idea is they're building followers, and so they sell merch. And so the idea is that many people out there wear DedSec stuff like you would for a sports team. So I think it's like their merch, and that anyone could be wearing it. I think that's supposed to be the pull there. But you're right. If you're wearing DedSec hat, jacket, shirt, jeans, shoes, you got DedSec tattooed across your face. I'm with you. I see what you're saying.
So Aiden was just this creeper who walked around that everybody would report just based off of how he looked. And then these guys are just a bunch of DBs running around with, hey, by the way, in case you didn't know, DedSec. Yeah. But I'm not part of it. I'm not part of DedSec.
Well, it is a fun game. I do think there's a couple scenes, especially in the second, I would say maybe even the third act of the game, that kind of up the ante emotionally somewhat, but it still maintains its lightheartedness even through the end. So I feel like your overall response to it's still going to be good, not great. But
trash.
for certain people, it's not trash. But for certain people, it is. It's up there in the Game of the Year discussion, and it certainly is for me too. Speaking of Game of the Year discussion, I finished a game this past week that is definitely in the running, and I can't decide where it lands yet. I'll tell you guys this next week. But Final Fantasy 15, I completed that game, and I loved it. I enjoyed it more and more the more I played it. I have not done a lot of the stuff you're talking about. I think I'm level 48, but I haven't done most of the hunts. I haven't gone after any of the major. I think I only beat one of the major, I don't know what you call them, those special bosses. Like I beat a level 72 boss that was really tough. But I haven't tried Adamantoise. I haven't gone after some of these other major monsters or anything like that. But it's so fun. Loved the story. I'll talk a little bit about protagonist and villain here in a little bit. But really, really enjoyed that game. It was a very pleasant surprise for me. And so I'm looking forward to seeing the additional chapters they release and some of the additional story stuff that gets patched in. Also playing through Telltale's Batman, as I mentioned. I just finished episode 4 today, actually, so I'm getting ready to head into the finale of that one. Really, really like it, but I'm having more technical issues than I've ever had with Telltale. I'm totally willing to push through them because I'm so enjoying the story. I'm really hooked on it. I love the Batman world anyway, but the technical issues are killing me. And so I don't know if my PS4 is just having problems. Like maybe this is the beginning of issues with my PS4 because I did have a crash with Final Fantasy 15.
That so you can justify that Pro purchase.
Getting that Pro, that's right.
3,
well, do you remember a few weeks ago I told you that Final Fantasy 15 crashed on me? So that happened twice, and I don't know if anyone else had that as a recurring issue, but then again, I played that game for 40 hours, and it only crashed twice. So to me, it didn't seem like a major issue. Batman, I've been playing Batman for 8 hours total, and it's already crashed 3 times on me. Batman has. So I don't know if it's my PS4. I feel like it's the app. I feel like it's the game itself. Their engine just tends to get locked up. And when it gets locked up for too long, then the game will just shut. The app will just crash.
Are you doing a lot of things while you're playing it? Like, are you downloading stuff? Are you running other apps? Anything?
Not to my knowledge. I mean, it could be downloading something in the background that I didn't ask it to. That's possible. But like for example, today I purchased 3 games that were on sale, the holiday sale, and they were downloading. And as soon as I purchased them and hit start download, I fired up Batman and played some more. It didn't crash during that whole play time. So anyway, that's a bummer, but guys, Batman is awesome. They do some surprising things with the story and the characters. It's really great. It's really dark, very gritty. Telltale always has a great story to tell with amazing writing, so loving that, and I'm almost done with it. And I also just today fired up Song of the Deep. It's a game I bought that's on the holiday sale. It's Insomniac's side-scrolling Metroidvania underwater adventure that they, I believe, GameStop's new publishing arm is the one who published that.
It.
Yeah. So it's pretty charming. You know, the visuals look real nice. It's very. I almost said Child of Light, but the only reason I think that is because there's a young girl as the main protagonist. Otherwise, it's not really like Child of Light at all. It's very much you're in this little submarine that she builds, and you're floating around, and you unlock new abilities like a mechanical grip or a boost for your engine, and these things help you access new areas. So it's very Metroidvania.
Okay.
I've played it for about an hour and a half. My kids love it. I let them play around with it a little bit. They like watching it. Really charming little game. It's only $6 or $7. It might be $7.50 right now. I recommend it at that price. Seems like a good experience so far.
If you have PS Plus, it was only like $5.
Oh, maybe it was only $5.
Sure.
I forget the total. Yeah. So Song
I
of the
think
Deep,
you're
pretty
talking
good.
about
Pretty good.
Steam World Dig was like $7.50 or something like that.
Oh yeah, SteamWorld Heist.
$8.
SteamWorld Heist. Yeah. Yep.
Whatever. Steam
So
Heist,
and then the
not
last game that I'm playing, and I don't know if you had a chance to play this or not, but the new fad right now, Pokemon Go is old news. Now it's all about Super Mario Run. And a lot of people at my work have been playing it. I know a lot of people in our group have been playing it. I'm friends with a lot of you on there too, so we can compare our scores and who gets the most coins, and you can unlock different things for your little kingdom that you're building. So I'm playing that too, but I just want to ask you, have you tried it, downloaded it, and given it a shot, or is this something that you're not even going to think about trying?
I tried it, but it's nothing I care about. I'll probably delete it. I'm not paying $10 for it, that's for sure. Did you pay for it, or did you just do the free-to-play?
So I downloaded it, and I played through the first 3 levels, and then, of course, to play the castle, you have to then upgrade. So you can buy a few little houses and do a couple bonus and rally rounds without paying for it. But at a certain point, if you want to proceed in the 6 worlds, 4 levels in each world, you have to pay the money. And then it gives you, like, additional Toad Rally tickets. It gives you a bunch of coins to buy stuff. And so I was thinking, if I pay $10 now, I won't spend any more money after this. But that turns out you don't have to. So from what I can tell, there's not a store in the game where you can go and spend $5 or $10 or $20 more. It's just a one-time $9.99 purchase to unlock the full game. Everything else you do is earned in-game. So I did what I rarely do with the phone game, and I spent money. And I bought it for $10. And I just actually this morning finished World 6. And I can confirm, as someone who loves Mario, the only side-scrolling Mario games I've never played are the ones on the Wii U. Otherwise, I've played all of them on every system. And this one is fantastic. Obviously, what's missing is that control to go backwards to the left, because you're always running to the right. But the finesse of the controls between the tap and hold, or tap in midair to spin, and some of the other little things that they teach you how to do, it's really, really great. The timing required is really surprising. I found it to be really well designed. So the question that I had to kind of ask myself, and I'm still thinking about, is Super Mario Run a sign of better things to come for mobile? Because this, I'm not exaggerating. This is not hyperbole. This to me feels like the closest thing to a real handheld gaming experience that I've ever had on a phone. I mean, you might say some RPGs, some strategy games have hit it before, but as far as platforming goes, I think they nailed it. I think it's so good. And then the multiplayer aspect of it, where you're competing against friends, for coins and that kind of thing. Really surprising. Like, there's a great hook here, and I don't feel cheated because I bought the game. I thought of it as a $10, kind of a DS, like a lighter DS type of a game, which I would normally spend $30 or $40 without thinking about it. I spent $10 here, and I'm getting a very similar enjoyable experience as I would on a DS. So for me, I think it's totally worth $10. I think it kind of changes what we can expect from mobile games in the future too. So I'm loving it.
Good. I mean, I might play it a little bit more, but I just don't think I'll care. I just don't like mobile games. And again, no bias against them. I just don't care about them. I don't care about handhelds.
Yeah, I think it's really, really great. I will say this, though. It does make me want to go back and play a fully controllable, full-scale Mario game again, because it reminds me how much I love that platforming. So it is not quite...
Buy that Wii U. It's on sale for $300 right now.
The Wii U?
It's a good deal.
Yeah. That's not a sale.
That's
a
that big
ripoff.
Here's what I'll find humorous is if this new console launches at $250 the Switch. Like, how much will they drop the Wii U, or will Nintendo just be so I don't give a crap about this Wii U at all? They just leave it at 300.
I'm
Hey, if
convinced
you
they
still
forgot
have
about
one
it.
of
I
those,
think they forgot it's out there.
Huh?
Like, oh, the Wii U, that's right. Sell it for whatever. It's fine. Like, I think they forgot about it.
yeah.
Or they'll increase the
Like,
price, like
to
$350
me,
for these things now.
If this new system comes out at 250, you have no reason not to drop that system to 150, and I know Nintendo won't do that because there's no value at paying even $50 less than 250 for a Switch. None. I don't know. Especially if they're gonna try to sell some of these Wii U games, for $40 or $50 on the Switch. But that's a different topic. It's time to move on. Game of the Year Awards Part 2. Go. Let's do it.
All right. 30 minutes in, we're ready to dive into the results of the awards. So let's do this. Before we get into announcing our first winners, I do want to announce the first drawing winner. And then we're going to announce 2 more next week. So for this week, what I did was basically every single name that came in with each vote, I threw them into a hat, and I drew out our first winner. This was something I did earlier today. You ready to hear this? Drum roll. Derek, can you give me a drum roll? Winner number 1 is Manuel Sandoval. He is our first winner
Oh, no.
of our...
No, I'm not buying that guy anything. No.
Yeah, you are. You really, really are. All right, Manuel, you need to contact...
Congratulations, Manuel.
Yeah, congratulations, buddy.
$5
You need to
gift
contact
certificate to
Derek and or myself, and we will figure out the details of getting that to you and making sure that you have a little bit of money to spend this holiday season on video games. So there you go. Manuel's our first winner.
$5.
Next week, not only will we be wrapping up the biggest awards, we will also be announcing 2 additional winners for gaming gift cards this holiday season. So congratulations, Manuel, and everyone else. Stay tuned to see if you're one of the lucky final 2. All right. Let's get away from that boring stuff. Let's get right into the awards here. What we did last week, if you didn't tune in, I encourage you to go back and listen, at least kind of skip ahead and kind of listen to the winners. It was a really interesting discussion, I thought, as we talked about overall worst game, disappointing game, everything from casual games, games for kids, which game makes you feel the most like a badass, best console of the year, funniest game. We had a bunch of miscellaneous categories like that. This week, we're focusing in a little bit more. So these are more standard subcategories. So we're going to go through 9 different categories tonight. Multiplayer, story, visuals, gameplay, protagonist, villain, writing, acting, and music. And so this is where I think the stakes get raised a little bit compared to some of the silliness from last week's awards. So let's jump right into it. Let's talk about multiplayer. Now, to me, the best multiplayer game of this year was the best multiplayer game last year, and that's Rocket League. I still think that's the best game to play with friends. But that didn't come out in 2016. Yeah. So, for me personally, I had a very limited list of multiplayer games that I could pick from here. Pokemon Go is pretty close to it, but I think I tried to be very objective about it, like which game that I've experienced did the best job at creating a really great multiplayer experience. That it didn't totally rely on it, and yet it was something that you wanted to play multiplayer. So for me personally, I'd have to say The Division was the best multiplayer game this year. I thought they did an awesome job with the way that you team up and run missions together. It was really fun. The limited amount of times that I did team up with people like Moose or like you and Jamie, it was very fun. And a few randoms I teamed up with as well. I did not play that game past level 17 or 18, but the multiplayer part was pretty great. So to me, that was the best one of the year. What about for you?
This one's pretty easy. Battlefield 1. I felt like it had I don't know, I just felt like it was the most fun I had with a first-person shooter online. I feel like Overwatch was pretty close to that, but I don't know, just Battlefield 1 was so smooth. It was so good. I liked that I felt like I was playing... this is the first time for like a military shooter where I felt like I needed teammates. And I liked pairing up with people or groups of randoms and just following them and trying to work together. Again, Overwatch has all that as well, but I just enjoyed Battlefield 1 the most.
Nice. Nice. Well, the community does agree with you because in third place, with 13% of the vote, is Battlefield 1. And so a lot of people definitely enjoyed that for their multiplayer gaming this year. In second place, a game you also mentioned, was Overwatch with 20% of the vote. So those two games, of course, first-person shooters, highly regarded as some of the better multiplayer experiences of the year. And number one, just barely beating out Overwatch with 23% of the vote, is Gears of War 4. So there's your winner for best multiplayer game of the year. So what is it about Gears of War 4? Is it the campaign or is it the Horde mode? What is it that makes this so special multiplayer?
I mean, for me, that would probably be my best multiplayer if I was thinking about campaign and stuff. I was thinking of competitive multiplayer. But yeah, I think it's both. I enjoyed playing the campaign. Played a little bit with Jesse White, and then I had a few weekends where we committed probably about, I don't know, it was more than a few weekends. I think I played like 4 weekends in a row of at least 2 to 4 hours of Horde mode with a few of the guys, and it was fun. The only reason why I moved on, it has nothing to do with the game, is simple. If I want to get through these 2016 games, I got to shut out all these multiplayer. But it's a really good game. So was Battlefield 1, same thing. Same reason I stopped playing that. I was like, well, I can either keep playing this and being average at it, or I can move on.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's one of the, I'm very disappointed in myself for not creating the time I needed to get to Gears of War Judgment and then play Gears 4. But Watch Dogs 2 was unexpectedly entertaining. I actually thought I would start and then stop that game. I didn't think I'd complete it. And then, of course, Final Fantasy 15 came out, and yeah, so certain games just take over in a way you don't expect, and so my time quickly disappeared. And Gears of War 4 is now it's on the high end of my backlog list, unfortunately, at the moment. So, but congratulations, Gears of War 4, great multiplayer game from what I've heard this year. All right, next, this one again. We've talked about how this is subjective versus objective. To me, this one is more subjective than usual, and that's best story. So you might hear a story, whether it's in a book, a movie, or a video game, and it really resonates with you, and you go tell, let's say, for example, you go tell your brother, like, Jamie, you gotta check this out. The story is so good. And he watches it, and based on his experience with it, maybe the way it resonates or doesn't resonate with him, he might look at you and be like, dude, that story wasn't that great. So it's very subjective. It depends on what you're looking for. But what's interesting is the votes reflected a pretty runaway winner in this category. But before we get to the community votes, Derek, why don't you share with us what comes to mind when you think of best story in a video game this year?
All right, so I'm going to have one answer, but there's really two answers, and here's why. I think the game that had the best story, and I first of all want to say this year was pretty weak for games that had amazing stories, in my opinion. But the game that had the best story was actually The Witcher Blood and Wine. But because it's DLC expansion, I'm going to go ahead and choose Final Fantasy 15 as a full retail release game that had a intriguing story, a great ending, and I absolutely enjoyed that game. But I still think The Witcher 3, Blood and Wine, the DLC, had a really intriguing story.
Yeah, had Blood and Wine been a standalone release, like even if it weren't Witcher 4, if they had just released it as a standalone game, I think we could have made a good argument for including it in all these votes, and it would have won a lot of these for me, a lot of these categories, if not maybe even all of them, except for, the worst categories. It was that good, but because it required the main game, I still, in my mind, I think objectively, have to attach it to its 2015 main game. So I'm with you. It is DLC technically, but dude, it's essentially a complete game. So if you have Witcher 3 and you haven't gotten Blood and Wine yet, I don't know what else to say other than go get it. It's one of the best things ever made as an add-on to a game, ever.
So that's why my official answer is Final Fantasy 15, which is outstanding, and it was one of the highlights of the game, as I did enjoy the story, and the characters more than the story. But The Witcher 3 Blood and Wine is exceptional. It's really well done.
Yeah, I agree with you. If that one were eligible, and I'm one of the people who decided it's not eligible, but if that were eligible, that would be my pick as well, The Witcher 3 Blood and Wine. But since it's not, I had to narrow it down between a few different games. Batman, for example, that I'm playing right now, is up there, somewhere in the 3 to 4 range. Even a game like I Am Setsuna or Deus Ex, those both were really good as well. I liked what Firewatch did. Final Fantasy 15 ended third for me when I had to kind of organize my list.
Why did it do
I thought it was so great. I was very surprised at how much I liked that story. Second place for me would be Uncharted 4. It was my number one game until early October when I played through the amazing revenge story of Mafia 3. I loved Lincoln Clay's story. I thought it was amazing, and so that is my pick for best story in 2016.
Yeah, I thought about that one.
Yeah, I thought it was a great revenge story with Lincoln Clay and just a great throwback to the old Mafia-type storylines. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. So, all right, but let's hear the community's thoughts. Tied for second place, 2 games that we just mentioned. Final Fantasy 15 and Mafia 3 each got 13% of the vote for best story in 2016. I do wonder if Final Fantasy 15 had hit its release date, would this game have gotten more votes? People would have had a chance to complete it and really see the story all the way through. This game just released so late in the game release cycle this year. It was at a disadvantage. But that being said, it still, I think, is getting its props for being a great story this year. But number one, with 49% of the vote, an overwhelming winner, is Uncharted 4. The final chapter in Nathan Drake's story, where they introduce his brother, which, by the way, as much as I loved it, there is part of me that has to admit the fact that he has a brother and there's this incredibly close relationship that's such a huge part of his past, and yet it wasn't even, it's all of a sudden something they tack on. It wasn't mentioned throughout 3 very intense games with Nathan Drake. All of a sudden he has a brother. So I have to admit that feels a little bit tacked on, but they did it really, really, really well. Very well acted and written, and just a great story overall from start to finish. So that's our winner for best story in 2016. Does that surprise you at all? Probably not.
I mean, I don't agree with it at all. I mean, I understand people love that game, but I think, I don't know, I didn't care for it that much as far as story goes, and Uncharted 4 was a bit of a letdown, but I'll get into that later. But yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised people voted for it, but honestly, I would have put Mafia 3 ahead of it. Obviously, Final Fantasy 15, The Witcher 3. I had several games that I was like, there's no way I'm picking Uncharted 4.
Yeah, for me, it was very high up there. I really got invested in the story, but it wasn't the best. I thought Mafia 3 did a better job telling its story. It was a little more cohesive, a little more... It didn't have that one little thing that bothered me, and that is, oh, by the way, a central character in the story is someone from his past that we're just now introducing. We're going to pretend like it's someone really important. So, I don't know. That bugged me enough to knock it down.
Gears of War 4's story and characters more than Uncharted 4. Now, again, I'm saying this all off memory, which, of course, that's what we're doing on all these. But the point I was trying to make is I would love to, and I've said this before, play Gears of War 4's campaign again and Uncharted 4's campaign again to really go, okay, I definitely like this one better.
Yeah, I wish we had the time and energy to do that kind of thing too, especially at the end of the year when we're thinking back on games that came out in the first 6 months. Sometimes we forget how they may or may not have impacted us. Maybe we overestimate how good they were, and in some cases I think we don't give enough credit. So, yeah, it's interesting. The release dates, I think, do affect these kind of things, but that was the decision from the community, and I don't disagree with it, although I do think there's another game that did it slightly better. All right, so here we go into our third category for this episode, and that is Best Visuals. Best Visuals, and this is the kind of category that years ago I would have just called it Best Graphics. I mean, do you remember that back in the day when you tell a friend at school about a game, one of the first things you talk about and they ask about is the graphics. How are the graphics? But to me, I think it's a lot more nuanced than that these days. Like, for example, a game from 2015 that I think deserved to be in this conversation was something like Ori. Absolutely gorgeous game, but the visuals, it wasn't about it being realistic. It wasn't about it looking absolutely stunning like Arkham Knight or like Witcher 3. It was about it, I shouldn't say stunning, but it wasn't about it being realistic or gritty. It was about it being incredibly eye-popping, and that's exactly what Ori was. So... So for this year, let's see, I went first last time. Why don't you give me a couple of the games and maybe your top pick for games that jumped out at you graphically?
I enjoyed Final Fantasy 15 for an open world game, so let me make sure I say that, open world. There are some ugly parts of it, but for an open world game overall, I thought it was really, really well done graphically and visually. But this one comes down really to two games, and they're both not really that open, and that would be Ratchet and Clank and Uncharted 4. I'm gonna go with Uncharted 4 just because I like the more realistic visuals and the world that it was set in. But Ratchet and Clank was absolutely visually stunning. So those two games definitely, I could easily say they're tied, but if I have to pick one, Uncharted 4.
Okay. Yeah, I have the exact same top three, just in a slightly different order. So, with Ratchet and Clank being in third place for me, that game was super sharp, and it ran so smoothly. I loved Ratchet and Clank. It was truly
I haven't checked it out on my Pro. I would like to see what it looks like. I imagine if I saw it, I'd probably be like, oh, easily, hands down win.
And I would bet that even the up-res version on my regular old TGT PS4, it would probably look great on that too. But I haven't done that. But it was already a beautiful game even before that. For me, in second place is Final Fantasy 15. I do think this game, especially when you were out in the open, this game had stunning views. Now, when you really zoomed in on things, including characters' faces, and especially in places like the marketplace, when it zoomed in on items, we talked about this a few weeks ago, all of a sudden it became real flat and weirdly bad looking at certain times. Certain textures just didn't land. But so many textures did. The explosions, the fire, the way the animals moved around as you were attacking and fighting, and just the overall sharpness of the game I thought looked great when you were outdoors. There are certain shots, and I took a ton of screenshots in this game, there are certain shots that I said, holy cow, this looks absolutely stunning. So to me, that game is very much worthy of being recognized for its visual accomplishments. But Uncharted 4 is my winner as well. And I think it really won. Do you remember the towards the beginning of that game when Sam Drake comes back into Nathan Drake's life and they have a conversation on that right outside his work? I don't know if it's a porch or some kind of balcony. Yeah, they're sitting there catching up on life, and it keeps zooming in on their faces as they talk back and forth. Between that scene and then there's a follow-up scene with Nate and Elena on the couch. Those two scenes right there sold me on how beautiful this game was, and of course, it delivered all the way through the rest of the game. Every vista you were going through, everywhere that you climbed, every enemy you fought, it all just looked so great. But they did an especially amazing job on the human faces and the emotion, and to me, it's visually the best thing that I've seen this year. So, community, what did you think? Well, we really had...
Come on. We all know who won.
We do. Final Fantasy 15 and Ratchet and Clank were tied for third with 8% each. Not a surprise there. Both very deserving. A game we didn't mention yet, Battlefield 1, had 10% of the vote in second place.
Okay.
So people really liked the way that game looked. And so did Conan O'Brien, of course, on his Clueless Gamer bit. If you guys haven't watched that, go watch it. Him and Terry Crews. It's a hilarious video clip. And then, of course, Uncharted 4, with over 50% of the vote counted towards Uncharted 4, won Best Visuals of 2016. No shock there. And very well deserving, I think. Very well deserving. All right.
Yeah.
We're going to take a
Definitely.
quick break, and we're going to let some of our community share. What I did was I put out the call for people to submit audio or video making the case for a game in a specific category. So right now, we are going to hear from someone from our community. All right, so here's our buddy Michael McClendon here to share with us his pick for Best Story of 2016.
My vote for Best Story for Fathers of the Grind Game of the Year Awards has got to be Uncharted 4. They delivered a story that fulfilled and subverted our expectations. The cast brought it to life brilliantly, and I really just want to play it again. I want to experience it again. It is a phenomenal story. It's clear that they were able to bring forth some of that extra storytelling oomph from The Last of Us without violating the tone and the terms of what an Uncharted game meant. In fact, it was like all three Uncharted games in one, but it also felt like a new and fresh, wonderful thing to experience. I would also insert my best acting vote here really quickly. That is definitely got to be for Nolan North. I mean, he totally blew it away, and the way that they take that motion capture and their animators kick it up a notch and they make it all work together, and these beautiful set pieces that we get to experience both as a player and as an observer, watching the cutscenes and how it all kind of seamlessly flows together. And it was just, I felt personally it was the perfect length story, such an epic finale to this series. And if they go forward with it, that'd be great. But if it just stays here, it's just so ultimately satisfying how they were able to do that. Best story hands down. Uncharted 4 just delivers on every single front with all the characters, something old, something new, and it's delightful.
All right, thank you for that. Appreciate you guys submitting those, and please keep them coming. Even when Game of the Year discussion's over, I love including community members. So whether or not we can include you on a show as a guest, there's actually a lot of details to work out to do that for everybody. I'd still love to hear, whether it's an audio, video, or even if you just want something written, please talk to us. Let us know what you're thinking, what you want to have shared. We'd love to have you participate in the show. So thank you for that. Let's get to our next category here, Best Gameplay. I know it's a very generic, very open-ended category, but there's something to be said about the way a game plays. So for you, it might be mechanics. It might be some specific combat, the way the combat feels. We've talked a lot about movement, character movement, how it feels, maybe a certain way the puzzles are designed. What is it about the gameplay that wins you over? And so for me personally, this is a tough one. It comes down to a couple different games. Final Fantasy 15 worked its way up a little bit, but it didn't quite win. It's funny because a game like Uncharted 4 for me goes down the list in a category like this. Because as much as I loved Uncharted 4, the gameplay is just a good, sometimes close to great, third-person cover-based shooter. Otherwise, it's not too special. Deus Ex Mankind Divided was really close to winning this, but number one for me is Watch Dogs 2. I thought the way that you control... We talked about this a little bit earlier, so I'll keep this very short. The way that they let you level up and increase your skills in whatever category you want, guns blazing or through hacking and drone usage, I think it's so great. It's so fun to play. The driving's much improved, and I just loved the gameplay of Watch Dogs 2. To me, that trumped wherever it was lacking in some other areas. So that's my pick for gameplay.
That surprises me, I'll be honest with you. For me, it comes down to 3 games. And this actually really is hard. I'm actually deciding right now as I talk. Third place, I know for sure what my third place would be. It would be Deus Ex, Mankind Divided. I love the game, but it can't really compete with the next 2 games I'm going to mention. I'm just going to mention them first, and then I'll let you know who won. And that comes down to Dark Souls 3 and Final Fantasy 15. Now, the reason why this is difficult is because I equally loved both of these games, gameplay-wise too. I'm not just talking the whole package. I'm talking gameplay as well. But they're so different. Obviously, Dark Souls 3 is a little bit slower paced, a little bit darker and methodic, while you've got Final Fantasy is very bright, open, action RPG, crazy game. I'm going to go with... This is so hard, honestly. I know it sounds stupid, but I'm going to go with Dark Souls 3. Just because I think there's only one advantage it has, and that is it doesn't have a crazy camera to me. Final Fantasy 15 struggled with its camera. Not just at times. It was quite frequent, but I didn't care because I could rotate or find a way around it. But if I'm going to be objective, I have to say Dark Souls 3 did it the best. So that's
that doesn't surprise. I expected you to pick that one. It was picked by many people, and in fact is in a tie for second place. And I'll mention what it's tied with in just a second. Just wanted to mention as an honorable mention type of game, Fire Emblem Fates. Had Fire Emblem Awakening not been its predecessor, I would have picked Fates because of what it did. But unfortunately, it didn't do enough differently from Awakening for me to pick it. It's a great follow-up to Awakening, but it didn't really improve enough for me to say this is the best gameplay. But anyway, it's definitely worth mentioning. It's a fantastic strategy RPG. All right. Dark Souls 3 is tied for second place with Final Fantasy 15, 13% each. I think people had enough time to dive into 15 and experience enough of the combat to know that they loved the gameplay there. But in first place, just barely winning. Now, this is one of those votes for best gameplay that's spread out across dozens of games. I mean, we had picks all over the place. So the winner only had 15%. The winner only barely beat Dark Souls 3 and Final Fantasy 15, and that's Doom. Doom is our winner for the 2016 gameplay, best gameplay of the year. Now, if there's one thing I've heard about Doom over and over and over again, and I can confirm in my short, 50 minutes or so with the game, it's incredibly fast, incredibly sharp, and it just feels right when it comes to first-person shooting. So I don't disagree with that pick, although I personally enjoyed other gameplay mechanics more. I can't really knock that pick. It's a good choice from the community there.
No, it would actually probably come in fourth for me. Not because, again, objectively, I think it could easily win one. But personally, first-person shooters aren't my thing.
Yeah.
I always will prefer a third person in that type of game. But it's a great game.
And just to add a little clarity to my
worthy.
pick as well, I think when I approach this category, I also the word fun keeps coming to mind. Which game did I have the most fun with the gameplay? That's why I pick Watch Dogs 2. I can't make a strong argument that it is more mechanically sound in every single area than some of these others, but for me, I think of the most fun I've had all year. Games like Watch Dogs 2 come to the top of the
pile
there. So that's why I picked it. That's for me. So I throw in the fun factor.
I try to be objective and subjective, which I think you're doing as well.
Yeah.
And that's why I would say Dark Souls 3 and Final Fantasy 15 on a fun level, different type of fun, were equals. It was just, for me, it came down to what's the one thing that sets those apart. And that's simple. Yeah. Objectively, Dark Souls 3 did it better than Final Fantasy 15. But that would be it.
Yep.
And holy crap, just so you know, I just pulled up Uncharted 4 with HDR. Yeah. Holy crap. It's on my TV right now. Holy crap.
Right.
That's all.
All right, I need to go check it out. That's
You
I'm
really do.
This
is crazy.
Especially when the Uncharted 4 DLC date gets announced, I feel like there's a really good chance that I will replay the campaign of Uncharted 4 before the DLC comes out, The Lost Legacy.
Yeah. Forget you, Watch Dogs 2. I'm done with you. This is crazy.
That's awesome. All right, so that helps confirm the visual pick. So for those of you who have a PS4 Pro, if you haven't yet fired up Uncharted 4 on that thing, make sure you go do that. It sounds like it's amazing.
Well, when I got back, and I don't know what all these upgrades were, but when I got back, I guess I left my Pro on rest mode, and I had like 8 or 9 notifications, and they were all game updates, and I'm pretty sure it was like Uncharted updated, Watch Dogs 2. That's what actually got me to play Watch Dogs 2, as I saw it was updated. I was like, I wonder if it got a Pro patch. And sure enough, I can't tell you the details of it because I didn't bother looking it up, but it definitely looked better than what I had already played, and I already thought it was a good-looking game. Same thing with Uncharted 4. I'm looking at it right now, and I'm like, holy shnikes, but whatever. All right, moving on.
All right, yeah, moving on. So, kind of following in the same footsteps as story a little bit, now we're going to talk about protagonist and villain. So think about the heroes of each game, the main protagonist of each game. Who would you pick? Like, who comes to mind first? I don't know if you have your list in front of you, by the way, and that doesn't really matter to me, but who right now comes to mind from your experiences this year as being the best protagonist, and maybe give us a quick explanation as to why?
It's actually quite easy for me. My favorite protagonist was Noctis. I know not everybody liked Noctis, and yes, I did like other characters in Final Fantasy 15 better than Noctis, but I did love him. I liked him. He wasn't a whiny brat, but he also showed a little bit of immaturity. I think some people forget that he was really young on this journey when it started. And so I liked how
he cries a lot, though. Let's be honest. He does a lot of crying.
He does, but he's not like... You know what? I played Final Fantasy X again, or started it again this year, and I forget, because I played that game, 10, 12 years ago, how annoying Titus is, and like how whiny and just like, shut up.
Well, he's
Like,
very
seriously,
egotistical
that's
too.
what I
He's a
was saying to
sports
my-
star, so he's very egotistical at the beginning. But Noctis,
Yeah, and
even though
then he's
Noctis
just-
is a prince, he's like basically at the highest you can be in the land. He's for some reason is still a very likable, down to earth dude. So yeah.
He felt real. He felt like somebody who had this big burden on his shoulders. And when like he found out some bad news, I'm not going to go into details, even though it's not really a spoiler. But he finds out some bad news in the game that he didn't know about, that we, the player, already knew about. And when he finds that out, and the way he reacts felt real to me.
Yeah.
It felt like Final Fantasy had grown up. Like it wasn't this dramatic, like I'm playing Final Fantasy VII right now, and I find this humorous, by the way, so I don't take this serious, like, oh, in 1997 they should have done a better job of acting. But like Barrett cracks me up because he overreacts to everything. Damn it, go play, go do that. And he's always just yelling and he overreacts. And I felt like Final Fantasy 15 finally nailed a group of 4 guys that felt real. And each one of them were different. Each one of them added to each other. But I liked Noctis. I thought Noctis was awesome. I thought he was a great protagonist.
Yeah, for me, my pick, Noctis, by the way, I
You
liked
have
a
a
lot,
second,
but not
please,
my
if you
pick. My pick is Nathan Drake from Uncharted 4. Yeah, it's an easy pick. Yeah, he's already very likable, kind of blockbuster movie style actor. Like he strikes everyone very similar to Malcolm. Is it Malcolm Reynolds? Captain Mal from Firefly. Everyone likes Nathan Fillion, so he kind of has that vibe. Very likable, kind of snarky Han Solo type of a personality. But you know what? He's portrayed so well by Nolan North. He's performed so well, written so well, animated so well. He's so likable, and so I was on board throughout his entire story. I felt the emotions that he was feeling throughout that entire story, and I loved the way they wrapped up his story. I love Nathan Drake, and I thought they did a great job at wrapping up his saga. Hopefully not the last Uncharted game, but by most accounts, the last Nathan Drake-centered game. So liked him a lot, and I think he got the final story that he deserved as a protagonist, as a hero. Liked some other guys, too. I actually do like Retro from Watch Dogs 2. Really like Adam Jensen from Deus Ex quite a bit. But Nathan Drake's my pick.
I'm going to say my number 2 is Lincoln Clay. I thought he was badass.
Who is that? I missed that.
Lincoln Clay from
Yeah,
Mafia
Lincoln
3.
Clay. You know what? I was remiss to not mention him. He's probably right around Adam Jensen in that number 2 spot for me, because Adam Jensen to me was number 2. I think Lincoln Clay is probably tied for number 2. That's a good call.
Lincoln Clay
All right.
would be my 2, and then Jensen would probably be my 3, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I enjoy Adam Jensen. I know for some people he's bland, but
I like
I thought he did a good job in both the games that I've played.
Dude,
for
he's
DSA.
cut from the same cloth as Geralt. I mean, they just have a similar personality.
And I like those characters.
Yep.
But
very
Lincoln
very straight
Clay
face,
was-
but they feel emotional.
Was
So yeah.
mean machine, but he was also very human. Like he had feelings, and he had humor, and he had his moments, and I definitely say he was definitely a 2. He was actually really close to my number 1.
Yep. Well, he was part of a 4-way tie in our community's voting for Best Protagonist. So we had Lincoln Clay from Mafia 3. We had the combination of Emily and Corvo from Dishonored 2. We had Retro from Watch Dogs 2. And then we had Henry from Firewatch, who is the first-person controlled character who's talking the entire game, essentially. They were all
like
in a 4-way tie. Yes, they do. For third. So and they each got 5% of the vote. This is another great example of votes being spread out across many games, which is really cool, except for our number 1, which we'll get to in a second.
He's great.
Number 2 is Noctis from Final Fantasy 15. He got the second highest tally of votes for favorite character. So well earned there. By the way, I also love Noctis a lot. I like him more than most Final Fantasy heroes. Even though I love most Final Fantasy games, he was probably my favorite Final Fantasy lead character that I've seen, other than villains.
Yeah, they did a great job with him.
They
and
really
the whole
did.
crew.
Yeah, they
Can't
really
say
did.
no.
And then the winner, by far, almost 60% of the votes was Nathan Drake in Uncharted 4. So no surprise there. that he won that.
Sony
All right.
ponies. Sony ponies.
Best villain in 2016. So let's flip the coin here and talk about our favorite villains of the year. Now, I'm playing a game right now that has some of my favorite villains already in Telltale's Batman. I don't want to give too much away because some of the villains are a surprise, but one of the villains right out of the gate, they introduce you to him right away, is Penguin, and I love the way they do Penguin this time around. He's not what you expect. Really love the way they portray Penguin. And there's a few other villains that surprise you. So it's really, really great. Love the villains they have in Batman. It's really great. Can't emphasize that enough. But my favorite villain from 2016, can I say his name from Final Fantasy 15? Can I say his name, or is that spoiling? I think that's spoiling it a little bit if I say his name.
I guess, because really in the movie and even in the beginning of the game, you don't really know who he is.
Yeah. All right, so I won't say his name, but I loved the villain. I thought the performance was particularly great. The voice acting, I loved him in the movie as well. He was a very small part of the movie, but I loved him in the movie. He was a fantastic villain, and by the end, during that final battle, which, by the way, we don't have a category for this. That's probably one of my favorite boss battles of the year as well, that final showdown between Noctis and this villain. I loved the way they did that. My favorite villain, though, I think he had the greatest monologues. You know, as most villains have a good speech that they give. I liked his motivation as it was finally unveiled at the end. I thought it was great, and I just really liked him a lot. I found him to be undeniably charming and scary all at the same time, and that to me makes a fantastic villain. So the Final Fantasy 15 villain is my pick. What about you?
Same. I was going to say his name, but I will not now.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it.
But yeah, it's Final Fantasy 15.
Okay.
And all the Dark Souls 3 bosses that I lost to more than 10 times. F you.
Special kind of honorable mention here to, I know you guys are tired of me talking about it because most of you think this game's mediocre, but the Far Cry Primal villains of Batari and Ul in particular, when there's a scene where you're captured and he's sitting there looking at you with his son, I found him to be very intimidating and scary as a really good villain. So I like the villains in Far Cry Primal. And I also like Dusan Nemec from Watch Dogs 2. He struck me as a very hateable, very easily hateable villain, especially by the end of that game. So, but that's not who won. So let's talk about our community's winners. In third place was the Final Fantasy 15 main villain, who will remain unnamed for the sake of not spoiling it. In second place, the Uncharted 4 villain, who, for some reason, I chose to list as unnamed, but you'll have to remind me. I am totally blanking out right now. Is it a spoiler that guy's a villain in Uncharted 4?
Yeah, we'll just say it is.
Okay, all right. So the villain
because
in Uncharted 4 won
of the
second
game,
place.
I mean, he's not really in the beginning of the game. I don't know. They do a terrible job of hiding it, but
they do. It's pretty obvious.
We know Uncharted 4.
It's obvious in some ways, but in other ways it's not. I actually thought someone else might be the villain. But anyway, Uncharted 4's villain I thought was very well acted too. And again, even though the boss fight itself I didn't think was fun, it was a very intense and well-made final scene with that boss. All right, the winner of the best villain in 2016 in video games is Dr. Nefarious from Ratchet & Clank with 21% of the vote. That's right. Look at if you're just listening to the podcast and not watching the video, Derek's face just went very disappointed. He was excited talking about these games and stories and characters, and now he heard Dr. Nefarious from Ratchet & Clank, and he is not pleased.
I don't understand these people. I just don't understand them.
Nefarious is hilarious.
Why can't everybody just vote like me? I'm a smart man.
There's a reason he won. He is a very funny bad guy. He's funny in the movie as well, even though the movie we talked about not the best. But I don't think it's a bad pick, but I am a little surprised that he won.
Fine.
I'm a little surprised that he won. Okay. So there's your best villain. We're going to take another quick break and let someone from our community share with you some of their strong feelings about the Game of the Year winners this year. All right, and here is Robert Snow, longtime listener, here to share with us the passion he has for the game Darkest Dungeon, which I think may be one of the more overlooked games of the year. So check out what Robert has to say. And also, I'll put the link to his full Let's Play video in the description. I'm going to just include a few clips here.
Hey, what's up? This is my 5 minutes on why you should have played at least a little bit of Darkest Dungeon sometime in 2016. Down here at the blacksmith, this is where you upgrade weapons and armor. And you can see that for both Tim and Derek, my two main fighters have upgraded their armor so that they're a little bit tougher. Tim's evasive, so he has a bonus to dodge, less stress in the ruins area, and he's a warrior of light, so better damage if the torch is above 75. That's Tim. And you can see there's different people for sorts of things. Derek Teague, known cheat. He's not allowed to gamble while he's in town. So there's a couple different things to manage. One of those is a torch at the top of the screen that you can see. So when you strike a torch, it gets brighter. If it gets all the way low, you might get ambushed in the dark by people. Sasan is my healer. He's a Vestal class. And then
confidence surges as the enemy crumbles.
John Blackmage is my plague doctor, so he can cause blight. He's also got a pretty cool bleed attack there. This game's pretty awesome. Like I said, it's simple, but it's complex. It gets harder and harder. There's more enemy variations the further you go into the game. We'll kind of fight this battle here, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. There's actually, I've only got 4 classes here, but you end up having about 14 different classes that you can bring with you in every battle that you can choose from. Like I said, this is one of my favorite games. It's totally worth picking up. It's $12.50 right now on the PlayStation Network store. It's cross-buy and cross-save. No reason not to have this in your inventory. It's definitely worth it. I'll see you around in Fathers of the Grind.
All right, thank you for that. Appreciate it. And by the way, there's still time. If you want to also submit your audio, your video, and let us know what you think, whether it's about one of these categories. It's totally okay if it's a category we've already discussed. Not a big deal. Or if you want to go ahead and jump ahead and say, hey, this was the best PlayStation 4 game, this was the best overall game, I really want to hear your opinions. And so make sure that you send us your videos and share them to the group if you want, or just send them straight to me, fathersofthegrind@gmail.com. Share them via Google Drive. That's the simplest way to do it. And I'll do my best to include you in the show. All right, moving on. We got to get our last 3 in here because Derek's falling asleep as we speak. He had a long trip, long taxing cruise, and he needs to get to bed. All right, best writing. Best writing. The reason that I put best writing and not necessarily best script is because many games have great writing that is never verbalized. Sometimes it's actually just written. So I wanted to give a multitude of games a chance to win this category. So for me personally, when I look at best writing and I think of how characters were designed and how things were written, they really want to give you the right motivation. Which game takes it home? For me, it's Uncharted 4. I love the way the characters are written. I talked about the scene earlier. The Nate and Elena scene early in that game really helped seal the deal with the writing. But it's also the banter as you play with the different characters that you traverse through the levels with as you're chatting and talking, and the cutscenes as well. I think it's amazingly written. So to me, that's right up there. And just behind it for me is Batman Telltale. I think they did a great job with the writing there too. But number 1, Uncharted 4. What about you?
I'm going to go with Mafia 3.
It's a
felt
great
like
pick. Great pick. Yeah.
The way they told the story and the way it was acted and written was really, really well done. It's probably the best thing in the game. And yeah. I have to say the writing was really, really well done for that game.
Excellent pick. That's right there in third place for me. So yeah, I loved the writing in Mafia 3 as well. All right, so our community voted, and there's no ties this time. In third place, Batman, the Telltale series, came in third place there. Telltale usually does not let you down in terms of writing. They do a great job with setting up the dialogue and then giving you a choice of what to say. They usually do a great job with that. In second place, Derek, you're going to love this one. Take a guess what you think second place, if you know it's a game that you're not going to like. What game do you think is in second place for writing? You don't like it?
Ratchet and Clank.
Oh, no. That's not in second place. It's Firewatch. In second place. Oh, he's dead. He just fell over dead. Firewatch did have great writing. The interactions that Henry has...
It had great voice acting and writing. It just had... Yeah, terrible.
Yeah, it did. It really did. Story. The writing was great, and they give you some choices of what to say and how to respond to things, and you're communicating over the radio. To me, that's what made that game worth experiencing. And that's pretty much it, was the writing and the acting. So I think that's a deserving game in that second place spot. But
yes,
number 1...
I actually don't have a problem. Even if it won, I wouldn't have a problem with
And number 1 is Uncharted
Not for
4,
that.
best writing. And again, it was masterfully put together, a masterful way to end that Nathan Drake saga. So
I
Uncharted.
really thought Forza Horizon 3 was going to win. So I'm kind of disappointed in the community.
Yeah, that to me, that series is known for its writing. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, the voice acting, the way it's presented to us, it's phenomenal.
It's always some Australian dude who's like,
Whatever,
here, I got
guys.
you a car. I'll meet you in town. All right. So there's your winner for
Australia.
best writing. Best acting, to kind of tag along right beside this. Best acting. Let's give the community winners first this time, just to mix it up, and then we'll give our winners. The community picked in third place for best acting, Gears of War 4. I didn't get a chance to experience it.
Actually, really acted really, really well.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. That one got some attention, which I'm glad, because I feel like I don't think we have a category for overlooked game. We had a category for underrated, but Gears of War 4 was rated pretty highly. But I feel like it's one of the more overlooked games of the year. Just I don't know about something about when it came out. Even though it's part of a huge console exclusive franchise, I feel like that game. Released and then was gone really quickly. So I'm glad it's getting some recognition from our community here with some of these categories. All right, in
I feel
second
like it
place,
should get more.
What's that? What'd you say there?
I was just saying, I feel like, and this isn't to knock our community. I know where most of our community, I know what they play on. I know how they're going to vote, and I respect it. I really do. But I really feel like if we were in a more 50-50 group, like 50% of them preferred Xbox, 50% of them preferred Uncharted 4, I think you would really see how good Gears of War 4 is, because I honestly do believe it's the better game between Uncharted 4 and Gears of War 4 when it comes to gameplay, visuals. Now that I'm looking at it on my 4K with HDR, Uncharted 4 wins, but almost in every category I felt like Gears of War 4 was the better game for me. And I actually went into this year expecting Uncharted 4 to be the better game.
Well, that's a pleasant surprise then for Gears of War 4. Yeah. All right, so best acting in second place.
So
just like with best writing, Firewatch won second place for best acting. And so this could be voice acting, and it could be also motion capture or a combination of the two. And, of course, with Firewatch, it was all about voice acting because you really don't see any characters for longer than a split second in that game. So, and the winner for best acting in 2016 by the biggest margin of any of our categories is Uncharted 4. So I won't say much more about it. I already talked about certain scenes that jumped out at me, but it's throughout the game. But I totally agree. It is the best acted game this year. Alrighty, we have one more, and then we're done for this week. We have one more category, and that is best music. Best music. There were actually a surprising number of games that, to me, deserve to be mentioned in this category. Oh, wait a minute. Did we talk about our picks for best acting? I forgot to do that. What was your pick for best acting? I'm sorry, I skipped.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's I don't know. It's a toss-up between Gears of War 4 and Uncharted 4. So just so our awards are not so biased, I'm going to give Gears of War 4 the Best Acting Award.
Yeah. All right. It's not a bad pick. I really liked the acting in Watch Dogs 2, actually. I know that you just shared how much you hate those characters, but I actually think they're all very well acted and voiced.
Oh my gosh. I have a feeling you and I are going to fight over our top 10 because you're going to push Watch Dogs 2, and I'm going to push it the hell out.
Well, you'll love one of my other top. That's not my number one pick, and you'll love another one that was pretty close, and that's Far Cry Primal. I thought the performances were awesome in that game as well. And they kind of had to be. I mean, they're bizarre characters. They're like cave people, and they're back in the day, and the way they had to perform. The writing was nothing. Like the dialogue was laughable in Far Cry Primal. I am just talking about the performances, and they were clearly mocapped and voice acted. I thought they were really good. I think they're kind of overlooked because that game essentially has no meaningful story other than survive and help your tribe to survive. So the fact that the characters were so well performed, to me, is worth noting. But number one, yep, I'm sorry, I am biased because I played this game and didn't play Gears 4. It was Uncharted 4. That's my pick as well. So there you go. Sony Pony, whatever you got to call me, that's fine. All right, let's get to our last category here, best music. And unless you want to wait, I'll let you go ahead and give your pick first for best music. And you can list a few if you've got a few that jump out at you.
Best music's Final Fantasy 15. Easily.
Yeah. I mean, even as we first connected on this Google Hangout tonight, you had the music on from the theme in the background. I mean, you love that music.
Yeah, I enjoy it. The only soundtrack that I like more, but it's a last year game, would be Ori and the Blind Forest.
Oh, that's an amazing soundtrack.
But
yes.
I actually still listen to it. Like every once in a while when I'm in the mood for like a gaming soundtrack, I have Apple Music and I'll just go on there and pull up the Ori one and I'll just play it.
Yep.
Man, I want to play this. It makes me feel like I want to play this game every time. I don't do it because I got to manage my games, but
yeah, that's right.
It's a great soundtrack.
Yeah, the Ori music is phenomenal. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Totally agree. Okay, for me, it's also Final Fantasy 15. That's my favorite. And I'm really enjoying the music in Batman. I thought the music in Firewatch was really well done. And I really loved the music in Mafia. I loved the old school soundtrack. And I especially
I did love that.
I especially love the final song as you're heading to the final showdown. That Bad Mood Rising cover is so good in that game. But even so, the classic soundtrack in Mafia 3 is perfect. And some of the score is great too. But Final Fantasy 15, absolutely gorgeous music, super epic music when you're in the right kind of boss fights. Just absolutely beautiful music. To me, there's no game that comes too close to it. Even though I like the score in some other games I just mentioned, Final Fantasy 15 is so epically done when it comes to music. So let's see what our community thinks with this final category for this week. We had a lot of votes for games such as Doom, Mafia 3, Watch Dogs 2. And by the way, Watch Dogs 2 does have an app where you can go through and listen to music. I didn't like any of the songs I heard on that. Even though that's a cool feature.
No, neither did I.
Even though it's a cool feature, I like that they do that. Oh, and by the way, there is an app where it'll give you a little notification that there's a song that you can pirate nearby. So you can pirate music throughout that game, which is fine. But I think I'm just an old man, and I didn't like most of that music. But some people did. They also liked the Call of Duty music, Dark Souls 3, Firewatch. These all got somewhere in the range of 3 to 5 votes each. So they all got some love. But the games that really rose to the top, there's 2 of them. And in second place is Uncharted 4. Now, I don't think the music in Uncharted 4 was bad by any stretch. It's very well done. Super high quality, obviously. Produced to the highest of qualities. You could tell they spared no expense when it came to the visual and audio quality of that game. But it's kind of like calling the Star Wars music from Episode 7 the best music ever. Like, no, they do some great arrangements on a theme that we all love, but it was already an Uncharted theme. So that's why I can't pick Uncharted. It's a theme that's already been done, and it's great. It's really, really great, but it wasn't new and unique. Yeah. The big winner for 2016 Best Music in Video Games is Final Fantasy 15 with almost a third of all the votes. I think most people agree that music was absolutely gorgeous. So go listen to it if you haven't. So there's your winners for these 9 subcategories in 2016. And of course, if we were to redo these votes, let's say in February or March, when a few people have a chance to catch up, people like me have a chance to catch up, these results could all be different. But for our purposes right now, we wanted to make sure we got Game of the Year awards done before the new year. And so those are your winners so far. Now, next week is when it really comes down to it. What's the best for each platform? And yes, some of the platforms are laughable in what they offered up this year. But some of them are really competitive. And then, of course, the major overall Game of the Year award. In addition to 2 of you will be winners in our final 2 drawings for a gaming gift card. So, yeah, it's been really fun. I love doing this kind of stuff. Not only do I like, dealing with analytics and data, but I also like discussing games from the whole year. So for me, this is a lot of fun, and so I appreciate all of you for participating and voting, and Derek as well for spending this hour and 20 minutes sitting here talking about 2016. So that'll do it for episode 50.
I mean, I'm looking forward to next week. That's when we're getting into the topics that I love the most.
Yeah. The goal, as we talked about,
Games.
the goal is for us to kind of create our own top 10 list. I don't know how successful we'll be in doing that. I don't know. We have to discuss together exactly how that process is going to work out because we don't have a third voice to kind of help balance things out. So we'll have to figure out exactly how that's going to work. But we will also, of course, announce the winners that you, the community, voted for as well. So who are the official winners there? But that should do it for episode 50. Thank you guys again for listening, for following along with us for this long. And as far as I know, we don't have any plans to stop anytime soon. So we always appreciate your input, your feedback, your participation. So let's keep this thing going. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Derek. You guys have a great night.
Who is your daddy? I am the father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?
I can't hear you anymore.
Are you still there?
Well, you went out. You've been going out a lot, actually.
Yeah, so have
Not
you, but I
like
catch
out
enough of what you're
town.
saying to know that you're wrong, so...